Thank you. Thanks for the warm welcome. I don't know if it's because it's in Whitehall, which is kind of my old stomping grounds where I grew up, or just because I saw some familiar faces. It just feels warm here. It feels welcoming. So thank you for that. It's been fun already, and we've only been here for an hour or so. But I also want to say something when we were talking about the pumpkin roll. I mean, that takes me back to my childhood, too. How many of you have rolled a pumpkin down that big hill in Montague? Same, yes. It just reminds me of something that was said about that. And I'm guessing it's a phrase that is used a lot around here, something about we need to go. Is that, did I pick up on that? Like just from, it's a thing. Well, we can go to Mongolia, and I was blessed by that as well, or you can just come to Apple Avenue in Muskegon. So I love that you have global partners and local partners, and then just our community. So again, that just resonates with me. So again, my name is Joy. I have the pleasure of serving as the executive director of Fresh Coast Alliance, and just give me a big wave if you've heard of us before today. So not a ton. Okay, awesome. So we're located right here in Muskegon County. We are in the Sheldon Park neighborhood. So that is adjacent to 31 Apple Avenue. And I'm going to directionally challenge a little bit, but it would be the southwest side off of 31. Is that right? Somebody who knows where we are? All right. I think I did. Okay. What we do is we help people that are starting their lives over. So whether that means you just came out of prison for the last 30 years, maybe you spent a few nights in the county jail, maybe you've been living in addiction and you're ready for recovery, or you're almost ready, we're going to help you get there. So that is what we do at Fresh Coast. So here's our mission. We exist to help transform the lives affected by incarceration and addiction, and we do all that through the love of Jesus, by showing folks the Lord in everything that we do. So, hey, you can clap for that. I like that. This is an interactive thing. Fantastic. All right, so there are some statistics up there. It is alarming to me how many drug overdoses we have. And Muskegon County is no different than most places in the country. And we have folks coming out of addiction, or coming out of incarceration, rather, back to our community. And in those first 2 weeks after you come home from being incarcerated, you're 80% more likely to overdose, because you're starting over, everything's new, and there's a very vulnerable population that we're working with when they're coming out of incarceration. So we are here to help meet those needs. Here is a list of all of the things that we do. So we describe ourselves as a wraparound care for folks coming out of incarceration and addiction. So that means some of the barriers that you face when coming home. Number one, first and foremost, is housing. We need a place to live. There are not very many sober living homes in Muskegon, but we have 5 of them that are right in our neighborhood in Sheldon Park. So we house 4 of our homes are for men, and then we do have a women's house. Another barrier is transportation. So they are all within 0.4 miles of our hub, of our training center. So it is walkable to get to us for groups, for community meals, for other opportunities to create that connection. Johan Hari is a leader in the recovery community, and he said something that's so powerful. The opposite of addiction isn't sobriety, it's connection. It's deep, right? So that's what we're doing. We're creating an environment where you have community, where you have that connection, where you have places to go. Something unique about Fresh Coast, we actually own our own therapy practice. So if you need mental health therapy, substance use disorder therapy, you need a recovery coach, somebody who's walked the same road that you have in addiction and are now clean and sober, we offer those services as well. Oh, we have employment too, because you need a job, right? Everybody needs a job. All right, so last year in 2024, 500 men and women came through our door participating in our programming. And again, those are open to the public. You are welcome to join us. We have groups that meet every single day, everything from your traditional NA, AA groups. And I know we're a Celebrate Recovery crowd, are we not? That is on the horizon, my friends. We are looking at bringing CR to Fresh Coast. And we also have job training. We're going to do some mock interviews, teach you some healthy things, healthy lifestyles, right? Because if we're replacing bad habits, we probably need some good new habits. And then last year in 2024, we served 134 days. We had a community meal. So if that's something that you're looking to get involved in, we also have teams that come in that serve a meal every Tuesday and Thursday at lunch. And then on Friday evenings, we connect with local churches to provide a meal for a recovery meeting that we have on Friday nights. And we also housed 70 different individuals last year in our safe and sober living homes. So you're going to get to hear from some of our folks and one of my team members here in just a minute, because they really shine and talk about what the program's all about. These are just the statistics. I'll get up and talk numbers, but you're going to get to hear some real life stories of transformation here in a minute. But this, my friends, is my favorite stat. If you are in recovery or you know somebody who's been incarcerated, we run on coffee, do we not? So last year alone, 135.5 pounds of coffee were brewed and served in our building. So we would never turn away if you brought us a can of coffee sometime as a donation. That is my shameless plug that coffee is how things happen. So I do want to talk to you a little bit about this shirt. Some of you already purchased it today. What a great way to help us. This is one of our big fundraising initiatives, but also to just share the love of Jesus wherever you go. Does anybody recognize that gentleman up there? Yeah, that's Matthew West, one of the biggest names in Christian music. He has been into the prison. That's another part of what we do. We do some in-reach at Muskegon Correctional Facility, soon to be at Brooks Correctional Facility, and he's come and done a concert on the yard. Anybody heard of Ben Fuller before? He's one of my favorites. He's actually going to come in and do a concert in November at MCF. So we get to bring some names. We partner with the folks at the Unity Fest. I know some of you are involved in that too, and they help us by bringing some big names. So how can you get connected with Fresh Coast? Here it is. Folks, I know that it's like what I'm supposed to say as a Christian leader, like, please pray for our ministry. But friends, like, I mean that. The work we do is hard. Not everyone is a success story the first time or the fifth time. Some of you know, right? So pray for us. Pray for our team. The work is hard and the days are heavy sometimes. So if you would cover us in prayer, that would mean the world to us. We do have opportunities for you to volunteer. I mentioned a couple, but you're welcome to chat with me if you're looking for more. And then, of course, giving is always a thing. The Lord has blessed us in different ways. If you feel called to give to Fresh Coast, we would always be willing to have that conversation. But just a special thanks to your mission committee team who brought us here today and welcomed us so graciously. But another way that you can help us out, this is, we say we put the fun in fundraising because I just said the work we do is hard and heavy, right? So when we have a fundraiser, you're not going to sit at a table and eat that dry chicken and listen to me stand up and beg you for money. Now, if that is somebody else's model, I'm not mad at you, but we're going to do some fun stuff. So we have one coming up October 15th. That's just a couple of weeks away. This is an opportunity for you to come on site, get a tour of our facility, see what happens day to day at Fresh Coast. We're located again in Sheldon Park. It's 1128 Roberts Street in Muskegon. You'll go room to room and have some different soups from different restaurants and folks that will donate soup to us. There will be a live band. That's why it's called Soup and Songs. And then we also will have some raffle items that will be part of the fundraiser for that night. But it's a great way to get connected. And then our signature event, again, that fun and fundraiser, it is a comedy night. How many of you have been to a sober comedy night before? Usually that involves alcohol and foul language, and not the case. So we're bringing in... we've gotten more and more famous comedians. So Jaron Myers, he does a whole shtick on Chick-fil-A, if you want to Google him after the service. And we outgrew Fricano's Place because we had over 500 folks at our comedy night last year. So we are at the... Yes, I love that. Please clap for that. Our team worked so hard for that. So we will be at the Fronthal Theater in downtown Muskegon. You can get your tickets online. That information is coming out soon where you can actually start to get your tickets. So here is my information if you want to connect. But thanks again for the warm welcome. And I'm going to bring the team up. and we're going to just talk about kind of the work that we do. All right, friends, I'll start with you. Oh, you put me in the middle? I'm the special chair. Okay, I like it. I like it. Well, I'm just going to start with some brief introduction. So, Salo, you have the mic if you just want to kind of explain your relationship to Fresh Coast a little bit.
I'm Salo Montalvo. I'm the Director of Operations and Housing for Fresh Coast Alliance and a returned citizen.
I'm Ralph Washington.
Hello, my name is Joshua Campins, and I'm also a housing participant with Fresh Coast Alliance.
My name is Justin Thompson, and I am also a participant in Fresh Coast Alliance.
Can we welcome my friends? Yeah. So, Justin, you have the mic, so I'm going to go to you first, if that's okay. So, why don't you just tell a little bit about your story? Like, how did you end up at Fresh Coast?
Oh well, so I have been clean and sober for 6 years now. So I realized I had a friend who passed away 2 days before I went into a place called Teen Challenge, and I got out of Teen Challenge, and my life was very unmanageable before I went into Fresh Coast Alliance. I don't know, my life was unmanageable without drugs. So I went into Teen Challenge, and I was lost. Still, I didn't know what I was gonna do. But I got a spot in Fresh Coast Alliance, and so far it's been really great. I've been living in the housing, and I participate there every day. I'm there in the mornings until they close sometimes, and I just like volunteering there. Honestly, I go to classes, so I really never leave. So
That's true, and we appreciate that. And that's just, I'll just take a minute to mention, sometimes nonprofits, we act like we're competing with each other, and that's not my heart, right? There's enough people to help here that we can all work together. And so having folks transition from Teen Challenge has been a gift, right? It's a kind of a step down from their program, a program we support. And so, Josh, why don't you tell us just a little bit about your transition? What's something that stood out to you once you got to Fresh Coast that you appreciated?
Well, I also went to Teen Challenge. I'm from Chicago, and this is the first time that I've been in this part of Michigan. So, but whenever I'm in the house of God, I always feel at home. So when I left Teen Challenge, I transitioned into Fresh Coast Alliance, and the thing that just stood out to me is just the welcoming spirit and just the loving people that just are so supportive in the community. That has just been such a blessing into my life. So
Awesome. So, Ralph, why don't you tell us a little bit about you?
Wow, where do I begin?
You've been with us for a while, so
Yes.
maybe talk about that journey.
Well, my name Ralph. I'm from Chicago as well. Returning citizen from incarceration. I've spent over 30 years of my life in prison since I was a youth, in and out of places of incarceration. I've never found a place where I actually felt wanted. Sometimes you don't know what you need until you need it, or until you find it. Fresh Coast was one of those things that I found, that I realized that I needed. My experience with it was through joy. While I was incarcerated, I was one of the people who was handpicked by her, the warden, and different individuals of the administration to participate in a college course called Hope Academy, where it talked about celebrate recovery, reentry, things of this nature. And me coming from an Islamic background, Muslim background, I was one of the 30 people that was picked and graduated the program successfully. And at that time, I was informed about Fresh Coast Alliance and what they do whatever. And so at first it was just a booklet that I had, didn't even know. And so upon my release from prison, they would not let me leave the state. Everywhere, every road that I turned to try to leave to go back home to Chicago, something would happen. And so I was put into what they call transitional living at K-PEP in Muskegon. And one day I just got up and started catching a bus, going places, didn't even know where I was going, and I ended up at a building which was ACAC because it said Fresh Coast on it, and walked the wrong direction, and then finally found the actual building, and I got in there, and I was like, man, is Joy or Nate here? And Nate was one of the original founders of Fresh Coast Alliance, who also was one of the facilitators of the program, Hope Academy. And Joy like, I hear my name. And then she come out and she see me. We hadn't seen each other in almost a year. And the rest was history. You know, some of the greatest things that's happened to me since I've been in Fresh Coast, like different things in my life. Just this past weekend, man, I had a real God, come to God moment. You know, I was stranded on the side of the highway. My mother's ailing and things of this nature. I went to visit my mother and got trapped on the highway. I think I cut the mic off, I'm sorry. And out of nowhere, a woman who was on her way back to Chicago headed that direction, stopped with her daughter and helped me. And then I reached out to a friend, and they helped me repair my car in the middle of the night and everything. Only God could have did something like that. And people didn't ask me for a dime or anything, didn't know me from a can of paint. So, you know, God is real, you know, and it's shown through other people. You know, I'm a little long-winded, so let me pass the mic. I'm sorry, y'all.
Thank you, Ralph. I appreciate your story. Yeah. So, Salo, why don't you tell us a little bit about what you do and then maybe a little of your story?
Yeah, so at Fresh Coast Alliance, we have 5 houses, and we, again, as you've heard already, you know, we help those coming out of incarceration or, you know, after addiction for sober living, looking to kind of piece their life together. So I oversee our houses and our house managers who also live in with our participants in each house. And then just kind of on the operations side, I used to do a lot of fixing stuff. Kind of miss that sometimes, but.
We just got to hire somebody as our
Right,
facilities manager, another return citizen. So God's faithful, even though we're taking your jobs, right?
I know, thank you. Yeah, so, but just being able to work with people, and again, this work is very close to my heart because I was formerly incarcerated as well. I spent 23 years of my life in prison. At the age of 16, I went and came home at the age of 39. And that was absolutely by the grace of God, because I should, by all rights, still be there today. And so just being there and being able to do this work has been a huge blessing, to be able to give back and to help the people recover their life and figure out what comes next after addiction, incarceration, and even after Fresh Coast, because we're just a temporary stay for them, you know, as we help them move on to, you know, what they've envisioned their life to be.
That's great. Josh, I'm going to go back to you. Just, will you tell us a little bit about what your faith has, thank you. What role your faith has played in your recovery journey?
Absolutely. So I had a background, a church background, so I always had God in my life. But I was always running away from him, and he never gave up on me. You know, he always leaves the 99 for his one lost sheep. And I found myself 3 hours away from home at Teen Challenge, and I always said another day of challenges for adult teens. And it was, and just by the grace of God, you know, leaving that program after 13 months, 288 days, but who's counting, right? And not really knowing where I was going to go from there. I originally anticipated going back home to Chicago, but towards my end of my stay there, I was just like, I feel like God's calling me to stay here in Western Michigan. And I don't think I was ready to go back home. You know, people, places, and things, I think it was too fresh. And speaking of fresh, I was at a concert at Christian schools, Calvary Christian schools, and I'm sitting in the crowd, and up comes a woman named Joy Sparks to introduce herself to the Teen Challenge guys, and that's where the seed was planted. It was in the spring, and I was just wondering, where am I going to go when I leave Teen Challenge? And Fresh Coast just kept getting itself in my pathway, and they just have offered this amazing opportunity for me. But that's not to say that it hasn't been, you know, emotionally, you know, a struggle coming out, transitioning back in society. But through my faith in God, and just He has just kept me through, you know, long nights that have just been like, what am I doing here in Western Michigan, God? What do you have me, like, what are you trying to show me? And just keeping my faith and trusting in Him, there's just, you know, I couldn't have got through it. It's just like that peace that surpasses all understanding. I just have this joy from the Lord that makes no sense, so.
That's great. Thanks for sharing that.
Sure.
Go ahead, Justin.
So I'm usually kind of nervous about this stuff, but I actually wanted to answer this question because I didn't know who God was until about 8 months ago. I got saved by the grace of God, and I learned that He is our portion, you know, and like I have goosebumps all over. Before I went to Fresh Coast, maybe 2 days before I went in there, I was walking there and to talk to Salo, and I knew Salo previous to that. I almost gave up, and I said, you know what, well, this God thing this isn't real. But about halfway there, I said, no, I'm not doing it. I'm not doing it, and I just leaned into Him more, you know, and I know that He's faithful because I've been through so much. This is probably the best I've ever been. And it's because of the grace of God, and I know that now. And really, Fresh Coast has given me another chance. And the thing is I do go, I don't care. Like, I go there every day, and I ask them if they need help. I do anything I can. Because I know that if I keep doing that, things are going to, and it's not about the blessings, right? It's about what you can do for, and I enjoy the classes, but I also go there because I need to do that for me. And I feel that more than anything, you know? And it really is a pleasure to know these people and to see what God is doing in my life, because I did almost give up. And He's never given up on me. He's very faithful, right? So I need to remember that.
Yeah, for sure. I just feel like that's such a testimony of what that community can do. When you, like, Justin is there sometimes when I get there in the morning, and I'm usually there pretty early. And he's, you know, stuffing envelopes for mailers, and these guys are painting our multi-purpose room and sweeping the floor, anything we need. But it's that being a part of something bigger than ourselves. Ralph, I'll kind of end with you. If you could tell this group of people something. One of kind of my passions is to just destigmatize the stigmas that are out there about people that are in recovery and people that have been incarcerated. So, like, if you could tell them, like, something you wish they knew about people who've done time or people who are in recovery, what would you want this faith community to know?
That's a wonderful question. I guess the only thing that I could really share with them that is a quick parable that God always does what's best, right? There was a wise man that was a part of a kingdom, and everybody in this kingdom would seek this man for wisdom. And no matter what would happen, what would take place, his remark will always be, God always does what's best. So He was the king right-hand man. So on Saturday mornings, him and the king would go out and ride the horses throughout the forest, throughout the kingdom. And during these journeys, they would talk. So one time, while preparing to go on that ride, the king is out pruning his prized rose bushes and clips his finger and cuts off the tip of one of his fingers. And the wise man wasn't with him, but when he came back to the wise man, he said, well, God always does what's best. And the people that he said it to didn't understand why he would say that. Like, how could you say that about the king? He cut off a piece of his finger. So they ran and told the king. He was arrested and thrown in a dungeon because they told the king a whole different story. So he was put in jail. And so while in jail, the king is out riding, and him and his entourage is ambushed. And when they got ambushed, they killed everybody who didn't have a flaw, so the king was spared. And they came back and told the wise man while he was in jail, like, man, they killed the king. I mean, they killed the king's security and all the riders that was with him, but they spared the king. The man said, well, God always does what's best. He said, how could you say that? So they ran back and told the king. They were like, well, release him from jail. Let me see him. So he came before the king. He said, did you say that when you heard that my men were killed? He was like, yes. God always does what's best. He said, even when I put you in a dungeon, your response was, God always does what's best. He's like, yeah. He said, well, why did you say that? Well, he said, king, had you not put me in prison when they was out riding, they would have killed me. He said, had you not cut off your finger while pruning those rose bushes, they would have killed you. So God knows what's best. So regardless of everything that you go through in life, God knows what's best.
That's great. Thank you. Yeah, sometimes we have to have a little timeout, right? We got to sit down for a minute, or sometimes we got to be pulled out of whatever we're in. Yeah, God does do what's best, right? Solid, any last thoughts from you just about maybe what this experience, it's just my heart to make sure that we have a combination on our team of professional staff and then folks with lived experience. So would you just share briefly about what it means to be able to help folks just like you?
Absolutely. I know when I went to prison at the age of 16, I was sentenced to spend the rest of my life there. And, God made me a promise, and he kept that promise. And I got a second chance again at life. And I remember sitting at Brooks Correctional Facility in Muskegon. So often there was a table on the backyard and where you could just see a little bit of the road through there, and you could see people walking by and cars driving. And I remember one day sitting there, and it was in the middle of the winter, very cold, and just telling God that if he let me out, that I would spend my life helping people like me in this situation. And I came home, and that's not what I did, but I could see that it was a process, and there was some learning I had to do, not only inside but outside, because transitioning from prison was not easy. It was very difficult. And then having grown up in prison made that transition even harder. And there were times where I wanted to go back because it was so hard. But having people around me to support me was the difference maker. And so what we do is we provide that support, because there's many times you may have a vision of something and you may feel those feelings and be so motivated, but reality is those feelings are fleeting. And so you always have to hold on to the vision even when you don't feel it, and take those steps even when you don't want to. And that's, and so with people with us, that's something that we want to impart, because it doesn't always feel good. It can be very difficult, but we have to hold on to what God has shown us and what he's called us to. And, that's part of what we want to do with people coming out. They have a vision of recovering their life and getting their life and rebuilding that life. And through all the struggle and the hard times, that come with that, we want to walk through them with that.
That's great. Thank you. Well, I think I want to say just once again, what a pleasure and honor it is to be here with you all today. Thank you for the warm welcome. And I'll turn it back over to you, Pastor Jeremy.